People in Rome were sleeping. Windows open, summer air drifting through narrow streets. The city felt heavy, but calm. A baker wiped flour from his hands. A mother pulled a blanket over her child. A guard leaned against a stone wall, fighting sleep. No one noticed the first spark. It started small, just a glow in the darkness. Then a crackle, then another. Within minutes, smoke slipped between buildings. Wood caught fire. Oil lamps exploded. The wind began to carry the flames. People woke to shouting, feet hitting stone streets, doors slamming open, the sky turning orange. Rome was burning. Families ran with whatever they could hold. Some carried children, some carried nothing, some never made it out. And above the chaos, on a hill overlooking the city, one man watched. He didn't run, he didn't shout orders, he didn't look afraid. Emperor Nero stood in silence, firelight flickering across his face. The greatest city in the world collapsing below him. Some said he watched. Some said he smiled. Some said he sang. No one knew the truth. But by morning, half of Rome was gone. Thousands were homeless. Power had shifted. Fear had taken hold. And one question began to spread, faster than the fire. Did the emperor save Rome? Or did he burn it? The man watching Rome burn was once just a boy. Quiet, soft-faced, easy to overlook. He walked palace corridors that didn't belong to him. Marble floors, cold statues, whispers that stopped when he passed. Servants barely noticed him. Guards looked through him. Even the nobles forgot his name. He wasn't born to rule, not even close. There were others ahead of him, stronger names, safer choices. He spent hours alone, listening, watching, learning who smiled and who pretended. His father was gone early. His mother, dangerous. Power moved around him like a storm, and he stood in the middle, very still. Some boys would have been afraid. Some would have tried to disappear. But this boy paid attention. He learned how voices changed near power, how loyalty bent, how silence protected people. And slowly, he understood something. In Rome, you didn't need to be strongest. You just needed to survive long enough. One night, he stood behind a curtain, watching men argue over the future emperor. They never looked his way. That was the moment. The boy realized no one saw him coming. Years later, the same boy would watch a city burn. The same calm, the same silence. And it raises a quiet question. Was Nero shaped by power? Or did he learn early that power belongs to the unseen? The boy no one noticed had someone who did. She watched everything, every whisper, every opportunity. His mother didn't move like other women in Rome. She didn't lower her eyes. She didn't wait to be invited. She walked like she already belonged. Agrippina understood power, not as a throne, but as a door. And she was always looking for the key. She studied the palace the way generals studied maps. Who trusted who feared who could be replaced. Her son stood beside her, quiet, listening, learning the same lessons. The emperor at the time was old, lonely, surrounded by people pretending loyalty. Agrippina saw something else, an opening. She spoke gently, smiled carefully, moved closer, day by day. Soon, she wasn't just visiting the palace. She lived inside it, her son with her. There was already an heir, a boy named Britannicus, born to rule, expected to rule. But expectations can change, and Agrippina knew how. Servants changed, advisors shifted, voices softened around her. And slowly, the invisible boy moved forward. Not by strength, not by right, but by proximity. One night, Nero sat beside the emperor, closer than ever before, close enough to be seen. And it leaves a quiet question. Was this a mother protecting her son? Or a woman building a path, no matter who stood in the way? The invisible boy was suddenly impossible to ignore. People saw him everywhere, on coins, on banners, on the throne. He looked young, almost gentle, not hardened like the men before him. Crowds gathered just to see him pass. Some waved, some cheered, some simply stared, curious. He didn't rule with fear, at least not yet. He lowered taxes. He appeared in public. He listened, or at least seemed to. Rome felt lighter, like a long breath finally released. After years of suspicion, people wanted hope. Nero gave them that. A smile, a performance, a different kind of emperor. He lacked music, poetry, theater, things rulers usually hid. Some citizens loved that. A human emperor, not just a distant voice. Even the Senate relaxed, careful, but relieved. A young ruler could be guided, shaped, controlled. And behind him, his mother watched, still close, still powerful, still listening. For a moment, everything seemed balanced. A loved emperor, a satisfied city, a future that felt safe. But admiration can change, expectations grow, and love can be fragile. Because when people believe in you, they also begin to watch more closely. And it leaves a quiet question. Did Rome love Nero for who he was, or for who they hoped he would become? The emperor people loved began to change. Not suddenly, not loudly, just little things. He stayed up later, long after the Senate left, long after the palace grew quiet. Music drifted through the halls, soft at first, then louder, then impossible to ignore. Nero didn't just enjoy performances. He wanted to be in them, on stage, in front of people, not above them. Some found it charming. A ruler who sang, who played instruments, who cared about beauty. Others felt uneasy. An emperor wasn't supposed to need applause. Power didn't usually ask to be admired. He started inviting smaller crowds, private shows, long nights. Doors closed. Advisors waited outside. Messages delayed. Decisions postponed. And his mother noticed. She stood further away now, no longer whispering in his ear, no longer guiding every move. Nero smiled more on stage, less in the council chamber. The balance was shifting. It wasn't cruelty, not yet. It was distance. He was no longer the boy being shaped. He was shaping himself. And Rome wasn't sure what that meant. Because when a ruler wants to be loved, he sometimes starts choosing admiration over responsibility. The music continued. The applause grew. The silence in government widened. And it leaves a quiet question. Was Nero becoming more human? Or drifting away from the weight of power? The applause around Nero kept growing. But not everyone was clapping. One boy watched quietly, close in age, close in blood, close to the throne. Britannicus didn't speak much. He didn't need to. People remembered who he was, the emperor's true-born son, the name that came before Nero. At dinners, eyes moved between them. Two futures, one table, one empire. Nero laughed with guests. Britannicus stayed reserved. The room felt divided, even in silence. Then came the night. Oil lamps flickered, wine poured, music played softly. Britannicus lifted his cup. Nothing unusual, nothing dramatic. He drank. Moments later, he froze. His hands trembled. The cup slipped. The sound echoed across the room. Guests leaned forward. Some stood. No one understood. Britannicus collapsed, breath short, body still. Nero didn't move, didn't shout, didn't rush to help. He watched, calm, almost distant. Someone said it was illness, sudden, unpredictable, unfortunate. The dinner continued, awkwardly, then quietly ended. By morning, the other heir was gone. No challenge, no rival, no second future. And something else disappeared too. The feeling of innocence. Because power had shifted, without a sword, without a battle, just a cup. And it leaves a quiet question. Was this a tragic accident? Or the first moment Rome realized Nero would remove anyone in his way? The empty seat at the table changed everything. No rival, no second heir, no one close enough to threaten him. Nero felt it. The quiet, the space, the absence. He began to move differently, slower, more certain, less careful with his words. The nights grew longer, music louder, celebrations brighter. Gold appeared where marble once stood. Silk replaced simple cloth. Luxury became normal. Guests laughed harder around him. Applause came quicker. No one corrected him anymore. He performed more often, not just privately, publicly, demanding attention. Some admired his confidence, others whispered, An emperor acting instead of ruling. Advisors found doors closed, meetings postponed, decisions delayed. Rome still functioned, but something felt different. Power no longer looked shared, it looked personal. Nero began choosing loyalty over experience, friends over advisors, admiration over caution. And slowly, fear replaced curiosity. Because when no one challenges a ruler, the ruler begins to believe everything is allowed. The palace grew louder, the government quieter. The distance widened. The boy who once watched silently was now the one everyone watched. And it leaves a quiet question. Did power change Nero? Or did removing his last rival finally reveal who he had become? The woman who helped him rise was still watching, still listening, still close enough to matter. Agrippina hadn't disappeared. She moved quietly, but not silently. She noticed the parties, the new friends, the closed doors. And she understood something. The boy she shaped no longer needed shaping. She tried to speak to him, sometimes gently, sometimes firmly. He listened less each time. Her presence felt heavier now. Not comforting, not guiding, controlling. Nero began stepping around her. Shorter conversations, fewer visits, more distance. But Agrippina didn't step back. She reminded people who she was, the emperor's mother, the woman who made him. Some listened, some whispered, some looked between them, unsure. Power had split, not openly, but unmistakably. Rumors spread quietly. She might support another heir. She might influence the Senate. She might still control the future. Nero heard the whispers, and for the first time, he saw her differently. Not as protection, but as risk. The palace felt colder. Words became careful. Silence stretched longer. Because removing rivals was one thing, removing family was another. And it leaves a quiet question. Was Agrippina trying to hold on to power? Or was Nero beginning to fear the person who knew him best? She was still his mother, but she no longer felt safe. Agrippina watched the invitations arrive. A celebration, a reunion. Her son wanted peace. At least, that's what the letter said. She knew him better now. Power had changed his eyes. Softness gone. Something colder underneath. Still, she accepted. The sea was calm that night. The moon sat low over the water. The ship looked beautiful, decorated, gentle, almost loving. Too loving. She stepped aboard slowly. Servants smiling, wine waiting, music playing. And Nero, far away on shore, watching. Then it happened. A crack, wood shifting, the ceiling collapsing. The ship began to break apart. This was no accident. This was design. People screamed. Water rushed in. Bodies pushed toward the dark. Agrippina didn't panic. She understood immediately. Her own son, her own blood, trying to erase her. She slipped into the sea, cold, heavy, silent. She swam. No guards, no crown, just a mother fighting to live. Behind her, the ship sank, the plan sinking with it. She reached the shore, alive. And somewhere in Rome, Nero heard the news. She survived. And suddenly, the danger wasn't her. It was what she knew. Because a failed murder is louder than any accusation. And now, the mother was coming back. He wasn't in danger anymore. His mother was gone. The whispers, quieter now. Nero finally had space. No shadow. No one correcting him. No one reminding him who made him emperor. And then, the night changed. A glow appeared beyond the rooftops. Orange. Flickering. Too large to ignore. People stepped into the streets, confused, half awake, listening to the crackling air. The fire moved fast. Wood, oil, cloth. Rome was built to burn. Wind pushed the flames forward. Homes collapsed. Markets vanished. Smoke swallowed the sky. Families ran with whatever they could carry. Children crying, animals screaming, soldiers shouting, without direction. And in the distance, someone watched. Not terrified, not running, just watching. The flames grew higher. District after district disappeared. 6 days, then more. Rome became heat. Rome became ash. Rumors spread faster than the fire. Some said orders were given. Some said guards blocked escape. Some said new buildings were already planned. And one name kept returning. Nero. Was he helpless? Or was he clearing space? Because when a city burns, someone loses everything. But someone else gets to rebuild. And in the glow of a dying Rome, power suddenly looked unlimited. He could feel it shifting. The stairs, the silence when he entered a room. The city was gone, but the suspicion remained. Nero needed an answer, not truth, an answer. People wanted someone to blame, someone small, someone unfamiliar, someone easy to sacrifice. And soon, a name surfaced. Christians. A quiet group, strange to many Romans. They met at night. They spoke about another kingdom, another king. Perfect. The arrest began quietly, then publicly, then brutally. Men dragged from homes, women taken from streets, children clinging, then separated. Confessions were forced, names multiplied, fear spread. Executions became spectacle. Some burned as human torches, some torn apart in arenas, some nailed to wood, left for crowds. Rome watched, some horrified, some satisfied, some relieved it wasn't them. And Nero offered sympathy, public grief, promises of justice. But the smoke from the executions felt different from the fire, because this time the flames had victims with names. Did he believe they were guilty, or did guilt simply solve a problem? When a ruler needs innocence, he creates monsters. And when fear replaces truth, people stop asking questions. Rome was rebuilding, stone by stone. But underneath, the silence was growing. And sometimes, silence is the strongest form of control. He heard whispers again, different this time, not from the crowd, not from the Senate, from inside. Allies who once bowed now avoided his gaze. Friends who laughed at his music no longer visited. Rome had rebuilt, but the people had not forgotten the fire, the fear, the names he chose to erase. Letters arrived, short, sharp, threats, warnings. And he realized he was alone. No one could stop what was coming. No force could save him. No mask could hide the cracks. The Praetorian Guard, quiet. The Senate, restless. The citizens, murmuring. He walked the halls of his palace, rooms once filled with applause, now empty. Shadows of laughter, replaced by echoes of suspicion. Nero remembered his mother, Agrippina, and Britannicus, and all the lives lost for power. Regret? Yes, but also defiance, a final performance for no audience. Orders were ignored, enemies grew bolder. Fear returned, now aimed at him. And in the heart of Rome, a question lingered. Could he survive the wrath he had sown? Could the boy who burned a city escape the city he built around himself? History watched, and for the first time, Nero was the story, not the storyteller.